When the couple arrived at the orphanage, I was working as the emotional support kid. A troublemaker was crying, begging me to slap him because he fell off. The director looked shocked. But then the couple walked straight to me. What a wonderful child. She stays so calm even in a situation like this. You'll definitely get along with our boys at home. The moment I got in their car, floating text appeared before my eyes. The three brothers at home all have issues. Baby girl's about to switch from being the orphanage therapist to the family therapist. Sweetheart, you're a little cream puff. Oh, heal the male lead. Too bad those boys are all trouble. They'll torment her now while they're young. Only when they grow up will they realize they loved her too much. Then they'll start chasing her obsessively. Only three of them? What the heck were these messages talking about? I reached for the car door handle, ready to jump out. But before I could touch it, the muscular dad grabbed my collar and lifted me back into my seat. Like a kitten. I didn't give up. I climbed up from the back seat and weakly pounded on the window. The director outside saw me and waved goodbye with a satisfied smile. I almost passed out from panic. That old fool never researched the families who adopted kids. I'd been adopted twice before, and both were absolute disasters. One was a creepy 56-year-old single man. The other wanted me as a future bride for their chubby son. Each time, I had to act like a demon child to make them give up on me. But now wasn't the time to celebrate my genius. Even if I had to jump out and land on my butt, I wasn't going to be anyone's little cream puff. I was about to crawl around in the car and bark like a dog to scare them into returning me. But then another message floated by. The brothers won't understand what they've lost until college. Right now, baby girl will just have to endure everything. All she'll get is $50,000 a month in allowance. So pitiful. Wait, are you serious or trolling? Why didn't you say so earlier? I sat back down like a good girl, with tears in my eyes. I hugged the new mom and whispered, "So, this is what having a mother feels like." She looked at me with such pity and gently stroked my hair. I thought of something and asked softly, "Mom, what if the brothers don't like me? What if they complain about me to you?" The mom seemed normal enough. She knew her sons were trouble. Without hesitation, she promised, "Who would dare? I won't believe a word they say. If anyone bullies you, I'll cut off all their allowances." Actually, before the couple arrived, I'd already learned about this family from the floating messages and the director. After hearing about the endless money, I'd spent days thinking about how to stand out. After all, I wasn't that young. People wouldn't adopt a big kid who might never bond with them. When the couple came to the orphanage today, I'd cleverly used that troublemaker kid to my advantage. It worked perfectly. I reviewed my performance. Brothers needed an emotionally stable sister, which was the only reason I got picked. Too passive. I buried my face in my new mom's arms, my brain working overtime. Thankfully, the orphanage director loved watching short dramas, and I'd learned a lot from them. I started thinking creatively about how to secure my position in this new home and protect my monthly allowance. I glanced at the floating text again. They were already talking about something else. I shipped the future eldest brother with the female lead. I love it when powerful men bow down. The eldest is the oldest, so he matured early from taking care of his brothers. He's also the most neglected child and desperately needs love. Now he's emotionally cold and barely speaks unless necessary. Basically a selective mute. But the second brother is totally spoiled by the parents. He was taken by rivals before and after he came back. Personality changed completely. Now he gets whatever he wants. At his young age, he's already lawless. Doesn't study, doesn't go to school. Don't you think the third brother is the real psycho? He keeps everything bottled up inside. Right now, he's a creepy, quiet kid. But later, he becomes the obsessive villain who forces himself on the sister. I quietly memorized all this information. Well, since I'm already here, I might as well heal them a bit. After all, I'm their little cream puff, right? The Wilson family mansion was bigger than a Barbie dream house. The three brothers were each colder than the last. They weren't much older than me. I listened to Mom's introductions and memorized each one. The eldest, Karen Wilson, didn't talk much. He excelled in everything and was currently reading a book. The second brother, Maverick Wilson, was on the couch playing video games, sucking on a lollipop, giving off rich kid energy despite his young age. The third brother, Julian Wilson, was looking at his laptop, wearing glasses. He glanced at me warmly since I entered the house. Aside from Julian nodding at me, the other two showed zero signs of welcome. I hid my jealousy of these rich boys and tugged on my new mom's skirt, playing the role of a shy, insecure girl in a new environment, wiped away non-existent tears. The brothers only act this way because of their trauma. "Mom, I'm the outsider here. It's okay. I'll get along well with them." My sweet, considerate behavior gave the adults a taste of parenting joy. At dinner, I was charming and played the victim perfectly, creating a warm atmosphere around the parents. The other boys had never seen this level of performance. They couldn't get a word in, and just kept glancing at me. Anyone could see I looked more like the biological child than they did. The floating text started scrolling again. Oh no. Tonight's the night. The brothers and baby girl will have a complete falling out. At the end of the day, the male leads are all starved for love. Baby girl just swooped in and stole what little attention the parents had for them. Their favorability rating for her is definitely at -100 now. Okay. The female lead will go comfort the brother soon. That's how the little sunshine warms everyone's hearts. Sure enough, after dinner, Maverick Wilson, sent by the team,
came straight to me. Hey.
So you're my new sister? I nodded and sweetly called him second brother. Seeing how easy I was to bully, Maverick sneered cruelly. Who said you could call me brother? This family doesn't need more siblings. Don't think just because mom and dad are nice to you for 1 second that you can do whatever you want. If you want to stay here, you'll be my toy. From now on, when you see me, you have to call me young master.
Got it?
But I remained calm and serious with a slight smile. But second brother, don't you know I'm actually mom and dad's biological child? You were picked up from next to a dumpster. Maverick looked completely confused. Yeah, actually, those bad guys wanted to take me back. Then, to protect me, mom and dad sent me away early just in case. Before I could finish, Maverick interrupted. Impossible. Stop making things up. I'm going to have the butler kick you out right now. Of course I was making it up. But bad kids are easy to trick. Second brother, stop being stubborn. You already saw it at dinner. Mom and dad like me. Have they ever been that nice to you? I continued making things up. Think about it. How did those bad guys take you so easily back then? Obviously, because you weren't important to mom and dad at all. Happy face, if you don't believe me, go ask them right now and see who gets punished. Don't worry. The orphanage director is really nice. Even if you get sent there, he'll treat you well. Young master. Happy face. The little tyrant's face turned red as a beet. His entire worldview collapsed in an instant. He looked like a purple eggplant, wanting to argue back, but unable to find a reasonable response. Seeing him glare at me with gritted teeth, I summarized simply, so I'm the real daughter, and you're the fake young master. From now on, when you see me, don't call me sister. Call me young miss. Maverick clenched his jaw, then calmed down. You think I'll fall for that? I'm not an idiot. I'm going to ask mom and dad right now. I wasn't worried. After all, I'd already played the victim with my new mom in the car. As for Maverick, because of what I just said, he wouldn't directly ask about his origins to be safe. Most likely, he'd test how mom felt about me. Soon enough, I saw Maverick shuffle out of the parents' room, looking defeated. He was a changed person, his eyes lifeless. Mom took away all my allowance. She's never done that to me before. I calmly said, oh, and watched him break down. Don't get too cocky. So, what if you're the real daughter? Mom and dad raised me all this time. They still have feelings for me. Facing the still stubborn second brother, I changed my attitude and raised my hand. Maverick thought I was going to slap him. He stubbornly didn't move, but tears were already welling up in his eyes. It seemed like he was planning to let everyone see that I was the one bullying him. However, I just patted his shoulder. Even though you took my identity, I don't blame you, second brother. You suffered through that incident in my place. I should actually thank you. The little tyrant froze. He'd just come to pick a fight. He never expected that even though I was the real daughter, I could stay this calm and rational. The more he thought about it, the more unsettling it became. I was exactly like dad. I could feel Maverick's suspicion of me shrink a bit more. I said warmly and considerately, it's okay. We're still family. From now on, I think mom and dad won't mind raising one extra outsider. This didn't comfort Maverick at all. He looked even more devastated. The butlers saw Maverick looking furious from afar, usually a sign he was about to cause chaos, and hurried over. Second young master, do you want to play with cars tonight? Sir, just bought you a little Lamborghini. But Maverick shook his head lifelessly. In just half an hour, he'd lost all sense of belonging. Butler, uncle, bring me my piggy bank. Need to return everything to my sister. The butler looked delighted. Second young master, you finally called me uncle. Under my gaze, Maverick awkwardly called him uncle again. Of course, I didn't force him. Maverick's brain had finally returned to normal functioning. He figured it was time to win people over, so he wouldn't be alone when he got kicked out. The butler was moved to tears. It's been so long since second young master acted like a human being. The floating text was flooded with question marks. Wait, what I asked this warm little sunshine? By warm, do they mean slap first, then set on fire? Maverick was terrified I'd let something slip in front of others, so he stuck to me every second. The little tyrant had a stiff face, but had to pretend to be humble and please me. He stopped playing games and stopped caring where the parents' attention fell. Most importantly, he didn't dare act neglected anymore. He was just a thief who stole someone else's parents. After discovering I was better than him in every way, Maverick became even more afraid. He worried that once he had no value, Mom and Dad would abandon him. Whenever this happened, I'd comfort him. "It's okay, second brother. The orphanage isn't that bad. Except for having to catch cockroaches and rats to eat every day. Well, if you behave, they'll let you watch TV for half an hour." Maverick's eyes went wide with shock. That's no place for humans to live. Seeing me suddenly go quiet, as if I'd recalled bad memories. Second brother panicked. "That's not what I meant. It's all because I stole your life. That place should be for me to live in." After saying something soft, Maverick felt something was off. He felt like I'd taken his brain out for a walk. He tried to figure it out. "Wait, that's not right. I was taken in your place. And I didn't steal your identity on purpose. I don't need to apologize." I just stared at him blankly without arguing, my eyes reddening. Yes, second brother was caught by the bad guys instead of me. Maybe I shouldn't have come back at all. I should have stayed at the orphanage, sleeping with the rats. That way, second brother wouldn't have to worry. After saying that, I went back to my room to eat snacks, looking dejected. Always being harsh would trigger rebellion. Sometimes, you need to add a touch of fragile vulnerability to make people think you're only strong on the surface. Bullying the weak would make him feel bad. The next morning when I woke up, I saw Maverick sitting at my bedside. The little tyrant looked a bit guilty. He hadn't slept all night. "Miss Sister, do you want to play video games with me today? Or you can yell at me a few times. Hit me too. I definitely won't fight back." Although second brother had already changed a lot, I knew I couldn't stop the treatment now, or his bad temper would come back. So I chose to avoid him and let him spiral on his own. It's good that he can't figure it out. That's how all those real versus fake daughter dramas go. I turned and went to wander around the eldest brother. Instead, the floating text started giving bad advice. The floating text was hovering right in my line of sight, aggressively flashing in neon pink.
Quick.
"The eldest brother is in the library. Go bring him a glass of warm milk. Stumble a little, so he has to catch you. Let your soft, helpless demeanor melt his icy walls." I stared at the glowing words, my face deadpan. Warm milk? Stumbling? Was this a family or a low-budget sitcom? Karen Wilson was a selective mute who supposedly ran half the family's assets because his parents were too busy playing high society golf. If someone stumbled and spilled milk on his expensive Italian leather shoes, he wouldn't fall in love. He'd probably calculate the depreciation of the leather and dock it from their allowance. I ignored the pink text and walked past Maverick's room. The door was slightly ajar. I could see the little tyrant aggressively vacuuming his own carpet, his face twisted in sheer panic, muttering, "I have value. I am not a freeloader. Rats won't eat me." I smiled. One down, two to go. I pushed open the heavy oak doors of the library. It smelled of old paper, expensive mahogany, and clinical depression. Karen was sitting behind a massive desk, drowning in financial reports. He looked up, his expression as cold and unreadable as a marble statue. He was handsome, sure, sharp jawline, dark eyes that held absolutely zero warmth, and the posture of a monarch who was thoroughly sick of his subjects.
He didn't speak.
He just stared at me, waiting for me to leave. I didn't bring milk. Instead, I walked over to the nearest bookshelf, pulled down a heavy volume on corporate hostile takeovers, and sat in the plush armchair opposite him. I didn't say a word. I just opened the book and started reading. 10 minutes passed.
20.
The silence stretched, thick and heavy. The floating text was having a meltdown. What is she doing?
Speak.
Act cute. You're wasting the opportunity. The male lead's favorability is going to drop. Actually, it was the exact opposite. People who are forced to be the responsible adult all their lives despise neediness. They hate noise. They hate having to manage one more useless, fragile thing. At the 45-minute mark, Karen finally shifted. He closed his folder, his eyes narrowing at me. He tapped his pen twice on the desk. A silent question. "What do you want?" I looked up, meeting his cold gaze. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across the massive desk. Karen frowned, picking it up. It was a perfectly drafted, handwritten schedule. Maverick's new behavioral contract, I said, my voice calm, professional, and entirely devoid of childish sweetness. I've convinced him he's the fake adopted child and that he's on a probationary period before being sent to an orphanage. Consequently, he has surrendered his allowance to me, stopped playing video games on max volume, and is currently vacuuming the West Wing. Karen froze. For the first time, a fracture appeared in his icy facade. He looked at the paper, then at me, then back at the paper. I noticed you look exhausted. I continued, leaning back in my chair. You manage the finances, you manage the family's public image, and you clean up after your brothers because mom and dad are oblivious. I'm here to take over the domestic management. Maverick is already under control. I'll handle Julian next. In exchange, I want a 20% cut of the family's private trust dividends, deposited directly into an offshore account. Karen stared at me. He opened his mouth, and for the first time in months, according to the floating text, the selective mute spoke. His voice was hoarse, but perfectly steady. You're 9 years old. And you're dealing with an ulcer at 16? I shot back, tapping my temple. Age is a social construct, brother. Competence is currency. Do we have a deal, or do you want me to tell Maverick that the orphanage ran out of rats and they're feeding the kids scorpions this week? Because he will absolutely start crying in your office. A beat of utter silence passed. Then, slowly, the corner of Karen's mouth twitched. It wasn't a warm, sunshine smile. It was the smirk of a ruthless businessman recognizing a shark in the water. He pulled a fountain pen from his pocket and signed the bottom of my makeshift contract. System error. Error. This is not the plot. Why is he looking at her like a business partner? The text wailed in bright red. I mentally swiped it away. Welcome to the firm, little sister, Karen whispered. By day 3, the Wilson mansion had undergone a terrifying metamorphosis. The parents, returning from a weekend trip to Monaco, walked into a house so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Maverick was standing by the door, dressed in a perfectly pressed suit, holding mom's slippers. Welcome back, mother. I have polished the silverware and completed my math homework. Please do not send me to the bad place. Mom dropped her Hermes bag, horrified. Maverick? Sweetheart, are you sick? Why are you acting like a butler? Survival, mother, Maverick whispered, his eyes darting toward the staircase where I was sitting, casually sipping a juice box. He flinched and stood straighter. I smiled sweetly and waved. Mom. Second brother, has been so good while you were gone. Mom practically melted, entirely missing the sheer terror radiating from her biological son. Oh, my sweet little cream puff. You really are a miracle. You've brought peace to this house. Just doing my part, I chimed. But there was still one loose end. The third brother, Julian. According to the system, Julian was the psycho. The one who bottled everything up, dissected small animals in the greenhouse, and eventually grew up to be the obsessive, possessive villain who would try to lock me in a golden birdcage. I found him later that night in the family's state-of-the-art server room. The glow of multiple monitors painted his pale face in an eerie blue light. He was 13, wearing wire-rimmed glasses and typing at lightning speed. You're a very good liar, Julian said softly without turning around. I ran a deep web background check on you. I also hacked the orphanage's database. I know exactly who you are, and I know you lied to Maverick about being the real daughter. He finally turned his chair around, a creepy, unsettling smile playing on his lips. His eyes were dark, unblinking. He was waiting for me to panic. He was waiting for me to cry, to beg him not to tell, so he could hold this secret over me forever. That was his MO, control through fear. I also know, Julian whispered, stepping closer, that you extorted Karen. You're a parasite. A very clever one. But I could ruin you with one click. I could print out the DNA files right now and slide them under Maverick's door. I took a slow sip of my juice box. I let the silence stretch until it became awkward. Julian's creepy smile faltered a fraction of an inch. Print them, I said simply. Julian stopped. What? Print them? I repeated, walking up to his massive monitors. Slide them under his door. Tell mom and dad. Expose me. I looked him dead in the eye. And then what, Julian? He frowned, his brows knitting together. Then you get kicked out. No, I corrected, shaking my head pityingly. Then mom cries because her new favorite toy is broken. Karen loses his only competent ally, meaning he has to go back to managing Maverick's screaming fits, which will make Karen miserable, and when Karen is miserable, he cuts the Wi-Fi budget and firewalls your servers. And Maverick? Maverick will realize he's the real son. The fear of the orphanage will vanish. He will go back to being a loud, obnoxious, destructive little tyrant who breaks your noise-canceling headphones and spills soda on your keyboards. I leaned in closer, dropping the innocent act completely. I am the only thing standing between you and absolute chaos, Julian. I am the apex predator of this household, which means you get to sit in here, undisturbed, playing hacker in the dark. You expose me, you destroy your own peace. Julian stared at me. The sociopathic gleam in his eyes vanished, replaced by the horrifying realization of a shut-in who realizes his perfect ecosystem is entirely dependent on me. You he started, his voice losing its creepy edge. You're insane. I'm efficient, I corrected. I pulled a USB drive from my pocket and tossed it onto his desk. I need you to wipe all security footage from the hallway from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. today. Maverick tripped and broke a vase, and I told him if I deleted the footage, he owed me his dessert for a month. In exchange, I won't tell Mom you've been using her credit card to buy crypto. Julian looked at the USB, then back at me. A slow, genuine, non-creepy smirk spread across his face. You're not a little cream puff, he muttered, slotting the USB into his tower. I'm the whole bakery, kid. Now get to work. System alert. Fatal error. The psycho villain has been subjugated. He is now providing its support to the host. Abort. Abort. The years passed, and the Wilson family dynamic morphed into something that would give a family therapist a brain aneurysm, yet it functioned with terrifying efficiency. To the outside world, and to our blissfully ignorant parents, we were the perfect high society family. Karen was the brilliant heir, Maverick was the reformed, athletic golden boy, Julian was the quiet tech genius, and I was the sweet, angelic daughter who tied them all together. Behind closed doors, it was a finely tuned dictatorship, and I was holding the nuclear codes. By the time I hit high school, the $50,000 monthly allowance the system had pitted me for had ballooned into a multi-million-dollar slush fund. Karen voluntarily funneled a percentage of his stock dividends into my accounts because I handled the PR crises whenever Julian accidentally hacked a government database out of boredom. Maverick was my personal bodyguard, having developed a severe case of Stockholm Syndrome mixed with profound sibling loyalty. He still half believed the orphanage was out there, waiting for him, though by now he knew he was the biological son. He just preferred my reality because it was easier than making his own decisions. High school was supposed to be the battleground. The floating text, which had gone dormant for years in sheer depression over my derailed plotline, suddenly flared back to life on my first day at St. Jude's Academy.
Host.
Beware. The school is ruled by the aristocratic F4. They will bully you for being an adopted orphan. You must endure it so your brothers will realize they love you and come to your rescue. I stepped out of the bulletproof Maybach. Maverick immediately flanked my right, glaring at anyone who dared look at me. Julian flanked my left, already holding a tablet that displayed the dark secrets of the entire student council. Karen, who had already graduated and was acting as the family CEO, had given me his black card that morning with the instruction, if anyone annoys you, buy their family's company and liquidate it. Who's bullying who? I murmured, adjusting my blazer. A group of mean girls, led by a girl named Chloe, the so-called Queen Bee of St. Jude's, strutted over. Chloe sneered, looking me up and down. So, you're the charity case the Wilsons took in. I heard your real parents were nobodies. Don't think you belong here just because. Julian, I interrupted, not even looking at Chloe. Her father is embezzling from his own charity foundation, Julian recited in a monotone, not looking up from a screen. He also has a second family in Connecticut. Shall I mass email the financial records to the kid.A, or just send them directly to the IRS? Chloe's face drained of all color. She stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. I finally looked at her, offering my sweetest, most angelic smile. Hi, Chloe. I'm going to need you to step aside, or my brother here is going to press send, and your dad is going to federal prison. Have a great semester. Chloe stepped aside. Her minions scattered, like roaches. The floating text just blinked a series of ellipses. It had given up. But the system had one last card to play. The original female lead, OFL. Her name was Lily. She transferred in mid-semester. She was exactly what the system loved. Clumsy, poor, fiercely independent, and carrying a tragic backstory. The floating text flared in bright gold. The true heroine appears. She will show the brothers what real, uncalculated warmth is. They will turn against the fake sister and flock to the real light. I watched from the second-floor balcony as Lily tripped over literally nothing in the courtyard, spilling a stack of papers everywhere. Right on cue, Maverick was walking past after basketball practice. The plot demanded that he help her up, gaze into her stubborn, tear-filled eyes, and feel his heart skip a beat. Instead, Maverick jumped backward with the agility of a ninja, holding his hands up.
Whoa.
Watch it. If you get dirt on my limited edition sneakers, my sister will dock my allowance and make me clean the gutters. Lily looked up from the ground, utterly bewildered. I just dropped my papers. Well, pick them up. Why are you looking at me? Maverick barked. He looked around paranoid. Are you trying to scam me? I know how this works. I bump into you. You claim injury. You sue the Wilsons, and I end up back in the rat orphanage. Not today, Satan. Maverick sprinted away. I snorted, sipping my iced latte. Beside me, Julian was typing furiously. Is she a threat? Julian asked, his eyes dark. I can have her family evicted by noon. Relax, Julian. Not everything requires a scorched earth policy. I sighed. Just keep an eye on her. If she trips near Karen's Bentley, though, you have my permission to fire the orbital laser. Understood. The college years approached, the ultimate timeline the system had prophesied. The brothers won't understand what they've lost until college. Then they'll start chasing her obsessively. Oh, they were obsessive, all right. But not romantically. They were obsessed with my approval. When I announced I was moving out to my own penthouse for college, the Wilson mansion descended into absolute anarchy. Karen actually left a board meeting, drove to my high school, and cornered me in the library. His usually immaculate hair was slightly disheveled. You can't leave, he stated flatly.
I'm 18, Karen.
It's time. I will double your percentage of the trust. I'll give you a seat on the board. If you leave, Maverick will revert to a primate, and Julian will probably hack the Pentagon just to feel something. You are the load-bearing pillar of this family. I'll visit on weekends, I said, patting his shoulder. And I'll still charge you my consulting fee. Maverick was worse. He showed up at my new penthouse with a sleeping bag, claiming that the air conditioning at the mansion was suspicious, and that he needed to guard my front door to prove his loyalty. I made him pay rent to sleep in my hallway. He thanked me for the privilege. Julian didn't say anything when I moved out. He just silently installed military-grade surveillance systems in my new apartment, synced my smart home devices to his mainframe, and left a note that read, I disabled the cameras in your bathroom and bedroom, but if your heart rate spikes above 120 BPM, I am dispatching a private military contractor. It was deeply toxic, profoundly codependent, and completely devoid of the romantic reverse harem drama the system had intended. I had successfully friend-zoned, boss-zoned, and dictator-zoned the three most dangerous men in the city. On my 21st birthday, the Wilson family threw a massive gala. The elite of the country were there. The parents, now fully graying but still entirely oblivious to the fact that their children were high-functioning sociopaths, kept on a leash by their adopted daughter, toasted to my health. Our little cream puff, Dad cheered, raising his champagne glass. The glue that holds this family together. I smiled, raising my own glass. Across the room, Karen nodded respectfully to me before crushing a business rival with a single glare. Maverick was busy threatening a waiter who had dared to serve my soup at suboptimal temperatures. Julian was in the corner, tracking the GPS coordinates of everyone in the room. Suddenly, the world froze. The chatter of the gala faded into silence. The people stood like statues. A massive, glowing golden text box appeared before me. It wasn't the usual, snarky commentary. It was an official system prompt. Mission complete. Plotline, obliterated. Genre, unknown. Host has successfully survived the torment phase and bypassed the obsessive romance phase. The male leads have been domesticated. System is out of budget and cannot compute further trauma. Reward, total autonomy. System will now uninstall. Farewell, boss. The text shattered into digital dust, blowing away into nothingness. The world unfroze. The sound of clinking glasses and string quartets rushed back into my ears. Everything all right, sister? I turned. Karen, Maverick, and Julian had all gravitated toward me, forming an intimidating, protective semicircle around my dress. To the rest of the room, they looked like three handsome, powerful young men fiercely guarding their precious little sister. Only I knew the truth. They weren't guarding me. They were guarding their own sanity, terrified that if I walked away, the fragile ecosystem of their lives would collapse. I took a sip of my champagne, savoring the crisp, expensive taste. Everything is perfect, I smiled, my eyes gleaming with the sharp, calculated light of a girl who had conquered fate. Now, Maverick, go get my coat. Julian, pull up the car. Karen, prepare the quarterly reports. We have an empire to run tomorrow. Yes, boss, they chimed in unison. I walked out of the ballroom, my heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. I was no one's little cream puff. I was the chef, and I owned the whole damn kitchen.